Many people naively believe that Thomas Edison was a genius inventor purely due to his own talent. Not many, however, know how he built his reputation standing on the shoulders of great scientists like Nikola Tesla. While the world has comfortably forgotten the likes of Tesla, Edison continues to be a genius in the people's minds. But why is this the case? Robert Greene, the author of the 48 Laws of Power, has a principle for this. He calls it Law Number 7, which states, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. The great military general Napoleon Bonaparte abruptly changed tactics mid-battle, adapting to changing circumstances on the battlefield. He kept his opponents guessing about his next move. He was practicing what Greene mentions as Law 48, assume formlessness. The 48 Laws of Power is not for the faint of heart. Neither is the book for those who pursue the subject half-heartedly. It is a book on how the most powerful and influential people get a hold of power and manage to protect it. Published in 1998, the book claims to reveal the darkest secrets of human nature. The 48 Laws of Power distill the accumulated wisdom of over 3,000 years. It draws from the lives and writings from some of the most powerful people in history, like Sun Tzu and statesmen like Otto von Bismarck. At times, the 48 laws may sound deceptive, manipulative, selfish, and even outright immoral. These are the rules in the book that say, learn to keep people dependent on you, pose as a friend, work as a spy, and do not commit to anyone. It's not a surprise that the 48 Laws of Power is extremely controversial. Millions of fans swear by it, while millions of others despise everything written in the book. For the second group, Robert Greene is a selfish, narcissistic psychopath who has nothing good to offer except the art of deception and manipulation. However, for the first group, the book reveals human nature and all of its complexity, allowing us to learn from it and avoid falling victim to deception and manipulation. The book can be a common man's guide to see through the power moves of manipulative bosses, deceptive politicians, or even gaslighting partners. This is your playbook to get whatever you want in life. Law number 1, never outshine the master. People are inherently insecure. This is especially true for people in positions of power. You may be the smartest person in the room, but when you shine too brightly, you risk hurting the ego of people higher up in the hierarchy. When Nicolas Fouquet, the French finance minister in the 17th century, tried to impress King Louis XIV by throwing an extravagant party, the king felt overshadowed by how amazing it was. The king was astonished and had a hard time believing that any of his subjects could be wealthier than himself. So, for Louis, this display of power and wealth was a threat to his own power. It was no wonder that shortly afterwards, he was arrested and imprisoned for life. On the other hand, when Galileo discovered the moons of Jupiter, he played it smart. Galileo dedicated his discoveries to the Grand Duke. He even named the moons of Jupiter after the Medicis. His strategy of not outshining the people of power paid him handsomely. He was elected as the official court philosopher and mathematician, with a full salary. Smart people know how to pose like an underdog to get what they truly want. Law number 2, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Robert Greene says, be wary of friends. They will betray you more quickly, for they are easily aroused to envy. For many, this piece of advice may sound mean and completely unacceptable. But Greene has analyzed hundreds of years of history of power to show how kings and people in power have been dethroned by their most trusted inner circle. Friends often carry secret envy and keep looking for opportunities to take advantage of the friendship. Moreover, they know your vulnerabilities better than your enemies. Greene says that people who attract power know how to use their enemies to their advantage. In 1971, during the Vietnam War, there was an unsuccessful kidnapping attempt of Henry Kissinger, the United States Secretary of State. Following the event, without informing the Secret Service, Kissinger arranged a secret meeting with 3 of the alleged kidnappers. Through this meeting, he completely charmed his supposed enemies and remained friends with them for many years to come. In Greene's opinion, when we hire a friend, they tend to become spoiled. But when we hire former enemies, they will become more loyal than a friend because they have more to prove. Law of 3. Conceal your intentions. Keep people in the dark by never revealing your true purpose. When they have no clue what you are up to, they cannot exercise any power over you. Mislead them by masking your intentions so they can never predict your next move. Most people are like open books. They say what they feel, blurt out their opinion at every opportunity, and constantly reveal their plans and intentions. By being brazenly open, you make yourself so predictable and familiar that it is almost impossible to respect or fear you. Power will not come to somebody who cannot evoke those emotions in other people. Therefore, it would be naive to completely be open in many real-life situations. For instance, dealing with a nasty coworker or a political rival. Law number 4. Always say less than necessary. Leonardo da Vinci once said, "Oysters open completely when the moon is full, and when the crab sees one, it throws a piece of stone or seaweed into it, and the oyster cannot close again so that it serves the crab for meat. Such is the fate of him who opens his mouth too much and thereby puts himself at the mercy of the listener." Have you ever observed that when we keep on speaking our minds, we often end up saying something that we regret later? The more we speak, the more likely we are to say something foolish. Also, when we try to impress people with words, the more we say, the more common we appear. On the contrary, the less you say, the more interesting and mysterious you seem. The more enigmatic you are, the more power you can hold. Law number 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. During the Second World War, the German general Erwin Rommel had a reputation for being extremely cunning and deceptive. His opponents were terrorized by his reputation. Even when his forces were running low and British tanks outnumbered him 5-1, entire cities would abandon ship at the mere sight of him. Reputation is the cornerstone of power. Through this alone, you can intimidate and win. Once it slips, however, you will fail to maintain your power. A big part of Henry Kissinger's diplomatic success came from his reputation of resolving conflicts. No one wanted to appear so unreasonable that Kissinger failed to convince them. Keep your reputation straightforward and focus on one standout quality. Once you have established a reputation of being ruthless or even brutally honest, you can exercise all sorts of power. For instance, a reputation for honesty will allow you to practice all manners of deception. Casanova used his reputation as a great seducer to pave his way for future conquest. Women who have heard of his powers became immensely curious and wanted to discover for themselves what made him so romantically successful. Law number 6. Court attention at all costs. In a world full of distractions, attracting attention is the key to maintaining power and influence. Use unusual tactics, unique ideas, and anything else to ensure that others know you. Everything is judged by how it appears. No one cares about what is unseen. Never let yourself get lost in the crowd or buried into oblivion. Be like Edison, who excelled at attracting attention even when they were arguably more talented scientists like Tesla. Edison's ability to stand out and promote himself ensured that he continued to remain in the spotlight when history kept forgetting the likes of Tesla. Stand out at all costs. Make yourself a magnet of attention by appearing larger, more colorful, and more mysterious than the bland and timid masses. Law number 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. If you've always wondered why all of your hard work often fails to fetch a promotion in a job or translate into business success, pay attention to this law. If you can get something done by others, don't waste your time doing it yourself. Many entrepreneurs waste time getting involved in the day-to-day activities of building a business. However, one can easily find talented people to carry out these tasks much more skillfully. Not only will this assistance save us valuable time and energy, but it will also make us appear more productive than others. People tend to see the end results, not the effort that goes into achieving them. So hire the most talented people and put them to work to achieve your own goals through them. Law number 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. The Iron Chancellor, Otto von Bismarck, once said, "When I have laid bait for deer, I don't shoot it at the first doe that comes to sniff, but wait until the whole herd has gathered round." Power is all about staying in control and making others react to what you want to do. It's about leading the way instead of following. When you make other people come to you, you sit in the driver's seat. It is you who now controls the situation, and the one who has control of the power. However, if you want to be the master of a situation, you must first control your own emotions. At the same time, you must learn to push people to react emotionally to your advantage. The trick is not to get angry, but to lay out a trap for your opponent to react angrily. Law number 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. Arguments lead nowhere. Even if we seem to win an argument, it only quiets our opponent for a while. They will soon prepare to strike back when the time is right. It is more powerful to get others to agree with you through your actions. Without saying a single word, show, don't explain. As Michelangelo was putting the finishing touches on his masterpiece, David, Florence's mayor, entered the room. He praised the work, but found a flaw in the nose. It appeared too big to him. However, the great artist immediately knew that the problem was not in the nose, but in the angle from where he stood. So rather than arguing with him, Michelangelo picked up his chisel and marble dust, tapping very lightly on the nose while letting the dust fall. After a few moments, he stepped aside and asked for his opinion. He replied, "I like it better. You've made it come alive." Michelangelo made absolutely no change to the statue. He just refrained from arguing and pretended to make some changes. Law number 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. You may have come across many people who seem unhappy. These are the people who always complain and suck out energy from others around them. The 10th law of the book says, simply stay away from such people. We are extremely susceptible to moods, emotions, and even the ways of thinking of those who we spend time with. Greene says, you can die from somebody else's misery. Emotional states are an infectious disease, and you will feel you are helping the drowning man, but you are only participating in your own disaster. Unlucky people not only attract misfortune for themselves, but they do it for their friends and companions too. Instead, surround yourself with happy and fortunate people to unlock the gates of power and success. Law number 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. A man had 2 horses to carry loads. So when the goods were loaded onto their back, the rear horse acted lazy while the one in the front carried the load well. The men then decided to shift all the weight onto the front horse, making the rear horse's job easier. Proud of his cleverness, the rear horse told the other, "The more you work, the more you suffer." However, when they reached the tavern, the owner fed the hardworking horse and decided to kill the lazy one for its hide. The lazy one was no use to the owner. Necessity rules the world. People barely act unless compelled to. If you create no need for yourself, then you will be done away with the first opportunity. You cannot exercise power over people who don't need you. So if you can, keep people dependent on you. You can derive favor from them. In that case, you will have all the benefits of power without the thorns that come with being a master. Law number 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. In ancient China, there was a concept called giving before you take. The giving is merely a ploy to hide one's ulterior motives to take away something bigger. The giving makes it hard for the other person to notice the taking. Learn to advance a small favor when you need something from the others. Be selectively honest. Your initial act of honesty will trick the other person into lowering their defenses. During the Trojan War, the Greeks gifted the city of Troy with the cunningly deceptive Trojan horse. The massive wooden structure concealed Greek soldiers inside who came out at night to open the city gates. This clever trick ultimately led to Troy's downfall, who lowered their guard with the supposed generosity. Don't try to take something from others by force. The victim will plot revenge. It's also not recommended to simply ask for what you need, no matter how polite. But if you practice selective honesty and generosity, it simply creates a distraction. Once your selective honesty opens a hole in their armor, you can deceive and manipulate at will. Law number 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never their mercy. If you need help from friends, don't remind them of your past good deeds towards them. Don't appeal to their sympathy. They will simply try to avoid you. An old proverb says, once it stops raining, the umbrella becomes a burden to us. Instead, try to highlight how they have something to benefit by helping you. They will have a more positive response when they have something to gain. A peasant had an apple tree in his garden that produced no fruit. It only served as a perch for sparrows and grasshoppers. So one day he decided to cut it down and began striking at the roots with an axe. The sparrows and grasshoppers begged him to spare the tree, and they promised that they would sing for him. But the peasant showed no sympathy. He continued chopping until he discovered a hive full of honey inside. After tasting the honeycomb, he threw down the axe and started caring for the tree. Most people fail to win favors from others. They simply focus on their own needs. Instead, they must learn how to appeal to somebody's self-interest rather than mercies. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. It's critical to know the ins and outs of your rivals. You cannot attain power without knowing what your opponents are up to. You can use the spies to gather information about your rivals. However, a better strategy is to play the spy yourself. Use social interactions to know more about them. Pose indirect questions. Involve them in communications. And then observe how they reveal their weaknesses and intentions. Maintain a friendly front, but work as a spy. This is not as difficult as you might think. A friendly front will let you secretly gather information on friends and enemies alike. Pretend to know that you are revealing a secret, and they are more likely to reveal their own secrets. Give them a false confession, and they will give you a real one. Law 15. Crush your enemies totally. History is dotted with examples that it's a fatal mistake to allow your enemy to recover their lost ground. If you want to get rid of an opponent, crush them completely. If you stop halfway, your enemy will recover and they will seek revenge. Greene says, crush him, not only in body, but in spirit. It is common human tendency that after winning a battle, we often start feeling sympathy for our rivals. We abandon the project and start thinking about reconciliation out of mercy. But by doing so, we only allow them to gather strength and prepare for revenge of the humiliation that they suffered. Power cannot be dealt with this way. Rivals must be exterminated, crushed, and denied the chance to return to haunt us. According to the ancient Indian philosopher Kalutila, those who seek to achieve things show no mercy. This is even more applicable to former friends who have now become an enemy. They know your weak spots and will hurt you more tactically. Law number 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. A man asked Sufi saint, "Why do I not see you more often?" To which the saint said, "Because the words, 'Why have you not been to see me?' are sweeter to my ears than the words, 'Why have you come again?'" The economic concepts of supply and demand say that the more the availability of a good relative to its demand, the lower price will be. Excessive supply leads to the erosion of value. The same is true for power, respect, and honor. You can create value only through scarcity. The more accessible you are, seen and heard at every moment, the more you risk losing your charm. When you make yourself too available, you begin to seem ordinary. Being enigmatic and mysterious can make you more desirable. Sometimes withdraw temporarily to arouse the curiosity of people, and that will make you more talked about. Law number 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Nothing is more terrifying than what is sudden and unpredictable. That is why we are so much more scared of earthquakes and tornadoes. There is no sure way to predict it when the next one will strike. After one has occurred, we will wait in terror for their next occurrences. Humans hate unpredictability. They even are intimidated by it. People want to be sure about the next moves of their friends and foes. So when you're predictable, they feel a sense of control over you. Simply turn the table and be deliberately unpredictable. When they find that your behavior has no consistency or pattern, it will keep them off balance. They will wear themselves out trying to anticipate your moves. When you follow this strategy long enough, you can even intimidate and terrorize your opponents. Eventually, they will feel powerless over you and grant you everything that you wish. For a while, Picasso worked with an art dealer, Paul Rosenberg, and let him sell his paintings. But one day, quite abruptly, the genius painter told Rosenberg that he didn't want to do business with him anymore. Picasso's sudden change in behavior panicked Rosenberg. He spent the next 48 hours trying to figure out why. He wondered if Picasso was talking to other art dealers. Picasso, however, was just going about his daily life. He was working and sleeping. Finally, Rosenberg came back to Picasso with a much larger offer. This is the power of unpredictability. Law number 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. Faced with a defeat, we tend to cut off and isolate ourselves. However, according to Greene, this strategy does more harm than good. The world is dangerous and enemies are everywhere. Everyone has to protect themselves. A fortress seems the safest, but isolation exposes you to more dangers than it protects you from. It cuts you off from valuable information and makes you an easy target. Self-isolation is akin to self-sabotage. We are social creatures by nature, so power depends on social interaction and circulation. To make yourself more powerful, you must place yourself at the center of all things. All activities should revolve around you, and you should be aware of everything happening on the street and of anybody who may be hatching plots against you. So instead of isolating yourself, a better strategy is to make yourself more accessible, reach old allies, and make new ones. Law number 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. A crow was sitting on top of the back of a sheep. The sheep, much against his will, had to carry her for a long time. Being frustrated, the sheep blurted out, "If you had treated a dog in this way, you would have had your desserts from his sharp teeth." To this, the crow replied, "I despise the weak and yield to the strong. I know whom I may bully and whom I must flatter." There are so many different types of people you may be dealing with every day. We cannot assume that they will react to our strategies in the same way. Some people take deception very seriously and they don't mind spending the rest of their life seeking revenge. Then there are the meek type who let go of their humiliation. Choose your opponents carefully and never make the mistake of offending or deceiving the wrong person. Law number 20. Do not commit to anyone. Queen Elizabeth I was the only English queen to never marry. Concerned over who would succeed her, even the Parliament petitioned to have her marry and produce an heir. However, she knew that marrying and committing to an alliance with one party or nation meant antagonizing others. Instead, she played hide and seek of flirting and withdrawing. This way, she dominated every ruler who sought to conquer her. The moment she committed to any single suitor would have been the moment she lost her power. She chose to maintain her mystery and desirability by never crushing anybody's hopes, but by never yielding to anybody as well. In the words of Robert Greene, it is the fool who always rushes to take sides. Do not commit to any side or cause by yourself. By maintaining your independence, you become the master of others. While this law may sound extremely opportunistic, it places you in an advantageous position in many real-life situations. When someone knows that rain or shine, you are going to take their side, they're going to use this predictability to their advantage. It is more practical to preserve your independence. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. This law is quite similar to law number 1. Never outshine the master. However, that was mainly meant for your superiors. However, law 21 applies to people in general. It's not hard to observe that nobody likes to feel dumber than the next person. We all want to appear smarter, more intelligent, and more impressive. So the trick in dealing with fools is to make them feel smarter than you. Spanish writer and philosopher Baltasar Gracian said, "It is not much good being wise among fools and sane among lunatics. He who poses a fool is not a fool." So play a sucker to catch a sucker. When you're convinced that they're indeed smarter than you, they will stop suspecting your ulterior motives. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. Faced with defeat, we tend to lose judgment and react with anger. We take defeat way too personally and continue to keep fighting when we are weaker. However, this is a loser's game. Instead, use the surrender tactic. Retreat temporarily or simply surrender. It will give you more time to recover. At times, surrendering is better than giving your opponent the satisfaction of fighting and defeating you. Surrender can look like weakness, but this can be a tool of power when used tactically. Your appearance of submission makes your opponent feel important and satisfied. This is when they take you for granted and lose their guard. Now, prepare a counterattack when the time is right. Law 23. Concentrate your forces. This law is similar to the common advice that says, play to your strengths. We often waste our effort and energy by spreading them way too thin. Rather, we need to concentrate on our strongest point. In the words of Greene, you gain more by finding a rich mine and mining it deeper than by fitting from one shallow mine to another. In other words, focus on the fat cow that will give you milk for a long time. However, allured by opportunities everywhere, we tend to do the exact opposite. Ancient Athens lusted for the faraway island of Sicily and ended up losing its entire empire. The Romans stretched the boundaries of their empire to vast territories, but by doing so only increased their vulnerability and the chance of invasion from a new enemy. Their useless expansion led their empire into oblivion. Intensity defeats extensity every time. Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. In the past, the court gathered around the ruler. They kept the ruler amused, solidified the hierarchy of royalty and nobility, and stayed both close and subordinate to the ruler. It was a tricky game to be a courtier. One had to master the art of indirection to be a perfect courtier. The successful courtier had to walk a tightrope, pleasing but not pleasing too much, and obeying but somehow distinguishing himself from the other courtiers. But had they distinguished themselves too much, they risked making the ruler insecure. The perfect courtier needed many skills, one of the most crucial of which was the ability to make the master look more talented. They also deceptively played with appearances, only letting those around them see what they wanted to see. Instead of using coercion or outright treachery, the perfect courtier got his way through seduction, charm, deception, and subtle strategy, also planning several moves ahead. While we are no longer ruled by kings and ancient courts have vanished, the concept of courtship still exists. It will exist as long as people desire power. Learn the art of indirection and deception, like the ancient courtiers, to assume power. Law 25. Recreate yourself. In 1831, a young French woman left her husband and family in the province to be a writer in Paris. However, soon she had to confront a harsh reality. Money and freedom were reserved only for men. Editors dismissed her and advised her to raise children rather than venturing into literature. Undeterred, the woman had a daring plan. She adopted the male pseudonym George Sand, started wearing men's clothes, and crafted a powerful public persona. In 1832, she published her novel, Indiana, which captivated readers. They thought there was a man behind these words. Eventually, she became one of the most celebrated writers in Europe in her lifetime. Through her bold reinvention, she shattered societal expectations and proved that only one can redefine one's identity. People frequently made the mistake of embracing the identities that society assigns to them, wearing them with pride. But you don't need to accept the rules that society imposes on you. Recreate yourself by forging a new identity. Be the master of your own image rather than letting others define it for you. Law 26. Keep your hands clean. Have you ever wondered why it's often so challenging to hold influential figures like politicians accountable for their misdeeds? It's because they make sure to keep their hands clean. They can maintain a spotless appearance by using others as scapegoats and catpaws to disguise your involvement. The use of scapegoats is as old as civilization itself, and examples of it can be found in cultures around the world. In ancient days, the Hebrews used to take a live goat, upon whose head the priest would lay both hands while confessing the sins of the children of Israel. People of power always keep a convenient scapegoat whenever they are under threat. Everyone makes mistakes, but everybody is truly not clever enough to hide them and to make sure somebody else is blamed. Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. People have an overwhelming desire to believe in something. They need a belief system to hold on to. Exploit that desire by offering them a cause, a new faith to follow. This can be done by keeping your words vague but full of promise. Appeal to their emotion and enthusiasm, and not to their rationality or clear thinking. Give your new disciples rituals to perform and ask them to make sacrifices on your behalf. In the absence of organized religion and grand causes, your new belief system will bring you boundless power. This is a secret behind the cult-like following of many religious leaders, politicians, and motivational gurus. They promise heaven and intentionally keep their words vague. They play with people's desire to believe in a system that can give them a better life. You can exploit this internal void in people to create a cult-like following for yourself and become worshipped. Law 28. Interaction with boldness. A boy playing in the fields got stung by a needle. He rushed to his mother and told her that he had touched a nasty weed and it had stung him. His mother said, "It was just you touching it, my boy, that caused it to sting you," the mother said. The next time you meddle with a needle, grasp it tightly and it will do you no harm. Do boldly with everything you do. Life is too short to take half measures. If you are not completely sure of a course of action, do not attempt it at all. Your doubts and hesitations will hamper your execution. Being timid is dangerous. Better to enter with boldness. Any mistakes you commit through boldness can be corrected with more boldness. Everybody admires the bold. No one honors the timid. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. We often rush into half-baked plans or launch ill-conceived businesses. Soon, we need to abandon ship after facing problems we failed to anticipate. The Prussian general and military strategist Karl von Clausewitz once said, "There are very few men, and there are the exceptions, who are able to think and feel beyond the present moment." Most people make emotional decisions rather than making rational judgments. Their plans are vague, and when they meet obstacles, they improvise. But improvising will only bring you as far as the next crisis. It is never a substitute for thinking several steps ahead and planning to the end. However, the ending is everything. No one remembers the people who started it, but the ones who waited till the end. So, Greene says, plan all the way to it, taking into account all possible consequences, obstacles, and twists of fortune that might reverse your hard work and give glory to others. By planning to the end, you will not be overwhelmed by circumstances, and you will know when to stop. This is how you achieve great fortunes. Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. When Eric Clapton plays the guitar, it looks so effortless that we overlook the years of dedication and practice that shaped his mastery. The same is true for the greatest painters, pianists, or violinists history has ever produced. True creative geniuses make their accomplishments appear effortless, as if their talents flow naturally. However, they conceal all the toil, practice, and clever tricks that go into them. When you act effortlessly, as if you could do much, much more. This will help you captivate your audience and inspire awe. However, avoid the temptation of revealing how hard you have worked. It will only raise questions. Most importantly, never teach your tricks to anybody, or they will be used against you. Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. We love options. So when we have options to choose from, we feel empowered. Play with this inherent human craving to exploit your targets. Give people options that come out in your favor, whichever one they choose. This way, they will not doubt your ploy. The choices will make your targets feel that they are in control, but they are actually your puppets. There's an old saying that goes, if you can get the bird to walk into the cage on its own, it will sing that much more prettily. Presenting a set of carefully chosen choices to your targets will set them up to act in ways that you want. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. The real world is often harsh, ugly, and unpleasant. This is the reason many people dwell in their fantasies to escape their reality. People often avoid the truth because it fails to comfort them. In the 16th century, Venice was in decline, losing its prestige and status. However, people chose to cling to a fantasy of suddenly regaining their past glory through the miracle of alchemy. While reality continued to worsen, the people of Venice continued to dream that their city would be magically restored in its wealth and power overnight, turning dust into gold. For the majority, life's so distressing that anybody who can manufacture and present fantasies is treated like a savior. There is great power into tapping into fantasies of the masses. This is a trick frequently used by religious healers. They promise to alleviate pain and suffering just to get a mass following. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. In Greek mythology, Achilles was a great warrior. His entire body was invulnerable to injury except for his heel. According to legends, his mother, Thetis, tried to make Achilles immortal by dipping the infant Achilles into the river Styx as a baby. However, the heel where she had held him remained untouched by its magical waters. During the Trojan War, he was killed by an arrow shot directly into his heel by the Trojan prince Paris. Everyone has a weakness, a gap in their castle. This weakness does not need to be a physical one. It can be emotional or psychological. A person may be in need of love or inherently insecure. You just need to find the soft spot and use it to your advantage. Flatter the ones who need love. Fill the emotional void of ones having insecurity. This way, you can control and use them to your advantage. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. Nobody respects a person who doesn't present themselves as worthy of respect. The way you carry yourself determines how you are treated. If you appear like a commoner, don't expect people to treat you any differently. By acting regally and confident of your powers, you make yourself seem destined to wear a crown. As an explorer, Columbus was mediocre at best. He knew less about the sea than the average sailor did about his ships. He could hardly ever determine the latitude and longitude of his discoveries, mistook islands for vast continents, and treated his crew badly. But in one area, he was a genius. He knew how to sell himself. Columbus had an amazing power to charm the nobility, and it came from the way he carried himself. He projected a sense of confidence that was completely out of proportion for his means. Aristocrats and royal families felt an instant affinity with him because of the way he projected himself above the crown. He created an image of somebody who is destined for greatness. It is within your power to set your own price. Law 35. Master the art of timing. Greene says, never seem to be in a hurry. Hurrying betrays a lack of control over yourself and your time. Always seem patient, as if you know that everything will come out to you eventually. Look out for the right moment. Learn to stand back when the time is not yet ripe, and to strike fiercely when it has reached fruition. Human beings have invented the concept of time. We can also mold it to some degree to play tricks with it. The time of a child is long and slow, with vast expanses. The time of an adult whizzes by frighteningly fast. Time, then, depends on perception, which we know can be willfully altered. This is the first thing to understand in mastering the art of timing. When we have inner turmoil, time tends to move faster. By controlling our emotional responses to events, we may feel that time is moving pretty slowly. However, when you're not in a hurry, time seems to pass slowly. This helps you play the game of power more effectively. You can take a more objective view of the past, present, and future. Do not be a flash in the pan. Success that is built up slowly and surely is the only kind that lasts. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignore them is the best revenge. We cannot have everything that we desire. Neither can we solve all of our problems. By acknowledging a petty problem, we give it existence and credibility. There is something you want but cannot have. Show contempt for it. The less interest you reveal, the more superior you seem. The more attention we pay to an enemy, the stronger we make them. A small mistake is often made worse and more visible by trying to fix it. Greene's advice is that at times it is best to leave things alone. Remember that it is our choice to let things bother us. It is a powerful move to ignore a trivial problem that is unworthy of your interest. What you do not react to cannot drag you down in a futile engagement. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. Diane de Poitiers, a prominent figure in the French Renaissance, was the mistress of King Henry II of France. She effortlessly solidified her status and influence over King Henry II by leveraging the powers of image and spectacle in court life. She understood that the world is driven by perception. Diane created a dazzling presence through her elaborate court appearances and luxurious lifestyle. She organized grand events, showcasing not only her elegance but also the power and wealth of her position. These spectacles captivated the nobility and the public by ensuring that she remained a central figure in the court. Learn from this woman. Be dazzling in your presence. Shine brightly. It creates an aura of power and draws everyone's attention. Create a larger-than-life image of yourself. When people are dazzled by your appearance, they fail to notice your real motives. Moreover, use imagery and symbols to create your persona rather than relying on spoken words. Words put you on the defensive. If you have to explain yourself, your power is already in question. The image, on the other hand, imposes itself as a given. It discourages questions and communicates instantly. As a great man once said, the truth is generally seen, rarely heard. Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others. We are all unique in many aspects, in our thoughts, opinions, and preferences. But according to Greene, it is not wise to flaunt our weaknesses at every opportunity. This may rub people off on the wrong side. When you swim against the tide and flaunt your unconventional ideas and unorthodox ways, people may think that you only want attention and that you look down upon them. So they will try to find ways to discredit and tarnish your image. Laying your pearls before swine will only bring you trouble. In the words of master strategist and diplomat Machiavelli, "For a long time I have not said what I believed, nor do I ever believe what I say. And if indeed sometimes I do not tell the truth, I hide it among so many lies that it is hard to find." According to Greene, it is a better idea to share your originality only with tolerant friends. Only they will appreciate your uniqueness. Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. Anger and emotion are strategically counterproductive, so you must remain calm and objective in all situations. However, if you can manage to make your enemies angry while keeping yourself calm, you gain a solid advantage. When the waters are still, your opponents have the time and space to strategize and gain control. You need to unsettle them, so stir the waters, force the fish to surface, and get them to act before they are ready. The best way to do this is to force them to act emotionally by attacking their pride and vanity. Once the water is stirred up, the little fish cannot help but rise to the bait. The more unsettled your opponent, the less control they have. Finally, they are caught in the whirlpool you have made, and they drown. Law 40. Despise the free lunch. No matter how much we love to receive free stuff, we must be suspicious of anything that comes to us for free. What is offered for free is often dangerous and usually involves either a trick or a hidden obligation. Moreover, what is offered for free or at a bargain rates often come with a psychological price tag. Complicated feelings of obligation, compromises with quality. What is worth paying for. By paying your way, you stay clear of gratitude, guilt, and deceit. It is also often wise to pay the full price. There is no cutting corners with excellence. Be lavish with your money and keep it circulating, because generosity is a sign and a magnet for power. You can exercise more power by protecting your most valuable resources, independence and room to maneuver. By paying the full price, you maintain your freedom from obligations or the risk of deceit. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. As a young man, Alexander the Great developed a great dislike for his father, King Philip of Macedonia. He detested Philip's cunning, cautious style of ruling, his bombastic speeches, and his habits of excessive drinking. Determined to be his opposite, Alexander committed to being bold and focused on achieving glory. Unlike other privileged sons, Alexander aimed to surpass his father's legacy. He wanted to ensure that Philip's name would be eclipsed by his own remarkable feats. Alexander represents an extremely uncommon type in history, the son of a famous and successful man who managed to surpass his father in glory and power. Most heirs of great men fail to step out of their predecessor's shadow, as they fail to disparage the past and create their own kingdom. If you succeed a great man or have a famous parent, you will have to accomplish double their achievements to outshine them. Do not get lost in their shadow or stuck in the past, not of your own making. Establish your own name and identity by changing course. Slay the overbearing father, disparage his legacy, and gain power by shining in your own way. Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. There is a Chinese saying, when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Most troubles, especially political ones such as revolts against power, can be traced to a single individual. If you allow such people in the room to operate, others will succumb to their influence. Do not wait for the troubles they cause to multiply. Do not try to negotiate with them. They are irredeemable. Cancer begins with a single cell. Get rid of it before it spreads beyond cure. Neutralize their influence by isolating or banishing them. Strike at the source of the trouble, and the sheep will scatter. Remember that a key element in a game of strategy is isolating the enemy's power center. Just like in chess, you try to corner the king. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. Nothing should be gained through coercion, but through effective persuasion. Coercion creates a reaction that will eventually work against you. You must seduce others into wanting to move in your direction. Appeal to your target's hearts and minds, and they will soften their stand. The key to persuasion is softening people up and breaking them down gently. Seduce them with a two-pronged approach. Work on their emotions and play on their intellectual weaknesses. Be alert to both what separates them from everybody else and what they will share with everyone else. Aim at their primary emotions: love, hate, jealousy. Once you move their emotions, you have reduced their control, making them more vulnerable to persuasion. But if you ignore the hearts and minds of others, they will start to hate you. Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. In ancient Greek mythology, the monster Medusa had serpents for hair and a scary face. Anybody who gazed at her was turned into stone, out of fright. But the hero Perseus managed to slay Medusa by polishing his bronze shield into a mirror. He used the reflection in the mirror to guide him as he crept up and cut off her head without looking at her directly. Medusa could not see Perseus. She only saw her reflection in the mirror, while Perseus stealthily destroyed her. While mirrors, both physical and metaphorical, reflect reality, they can also be used as a weapon of deception. When you mirror your enemies, doing exactly as they do, they cannot figure out your strategy. When you follow the actions of your enemies as best as you can, they are blinded by your mirror. Most of us remember the childhood experience of somebody teasing us by repeating our words exactly. After a while, usually not long, we wanted to punch them in the face. Working more subtly as an adult, you can still unsubtle your opponents this very way. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. Suppose you have been hired as a senior manager or in a leadership position for a new company. As soon as you assume your new role, it may be tempting to make drastic changes to the existing systems. However, this will be counterproductive. People resist large-scale changes, and their resistance will make it harder for you to implement any drastic measure. Most people get the idea that change is important and recognize for change, but this is only in theory. But on the day-to-day level, people are creatures of habit. Too much innovation is traumatic and will lead to revolt. Machiavelli once said, "It must be considered that there is nothing more difficult to carry out, nor more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to handle than to initiate a new order of things." If you are in a position of power or an outsider trying to build a power base, show that you respect the old ways of doing things. If change is necessary, make it feel like a gentle improvement on the past. Do not go overboard. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. Many people strive to craft the image of a perfectionist. In the age of social media, people often try to showcase that they have a near-perfect life with big houses, expensive cars, and exotic holidays. However, according to Greene, appearing better than others is always dangerous, but the most dangerous of all is to appear to have no faults or weaknesses. When you appear too perfect, you create silent, envious enemies. These enemies are more likely to emerge from your inner circle because even friends are not immune to jealousy. By making others aware of their inferior position, you're only stirring up an unhappy admiration. It is smart to occasionally display defects and admit to small troubles in your life to deflect envy and appear more human and more valuable. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. Two roosters were fighting on a dung heap. The stronger one defeated the other and drove him from the dung heap. All the hens gathered around the winning rooster and praised his strength. Carried away with his newfound glory, the rooster wanted his bravery to be known in the next yard. So he flew on top of the barn, flapped his wings, and crowded in a loud voice, "Look at me, all of you. I am victorious. No other rooster in the world has such strength as I." The rooster had not finished when an eagle killed him, seized him in his claws, and carried him to his nest. The moment of victory is often the moment of greatest peril. In the heat of victory, arrogance, and overconfidence, you can push past the goal you had aimed for. And by going too far, you make more enemies than you defeat. Napoleon once said, "The greatest danger occurs at the moment of victory." Do not allow success to go to your head. There is no substitute for strategy and careful planning. Set a goal, and when you reach it, stop. Law 48. Assume formlessness. It is important to have a plan, but it's more important to conceal your plans and make it invisible. If your plan is visible to your enemies, you expose yourself to surprise attacks. Instead of taking a form for your enemy to grasp, keep yourself adaptable and on the move. Accept the fact that nothing is certain and no law is fixed. The best way to protect yourself is to be fluid and formless. Never bet on stability or lasting order. Everything changes. Martial artists excel at hiding their moves and launching surprise attacks, leaving their opponents unprepared for those sudden strikes. Great military generals follow a modus operandi that leaves no tracks. Sages hide in unfathomability, so their feelings cannot be observed. The best way to avoid defeat is to assume formlessness. No predator alive can attack what it cannot see. At first glance, the 48 laws of power might seem outdated. After all, we live in a society that largely has moved away from tyrannical rulers and oppressive regimes to embrace democracy, equal rights, gender equality, and other modern values. However, it would be foolish to assume that the laws of power have fundamentally changed. If you observe closely how political leaders, powerful figures, or business moguls operate, you will see the impressions of the same power dynamics that ruled humanity since the dawn of civilization. Ignoring these underlying power plays exposes you to manipulation and exploitation. So while outwardly you must seem to respect the niceties of today's world, inward, unless you want to be made a fool of, you must learn to be prudent. As Napoleon once advised, place your iron hand inside a velvet glove.